Hello friends, welcome to or welcome back to my channel and welcome to my February wrap up for 2024. I'm probably going to be filming this in two parts because I'm going out in a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to get a start on this video and I wanted to film and I wanted to start chatting about these books before I have to leave, and then when I get back I'll film the rest. I feel like February has simultaneously felt like it's gone so fast, but yet when I try and think about the first book of the month that I read, it feels like forever ago. So I read 9 books this month, the first one being City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. I enjoyed this and I enjoy this series. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series. I enjoy the world and for the most part I enjoy the writing, but similarly as with the first one that I read in January, there are some things about this that are a little bit problematic for me. I found it difficult in January to describe why City of Bones, I think it is the first one. Yeah, City of Bones. I found it difficult to describe why it was slightly problematic for me, but I think the main thing is that I feel like it perpetuates relationship ideals that can turn into a bit of a toxic thing. Like, I really struggle to describe, I don't know what it is, it just feels like the relationship dynamic that some romance books or books that have elements of romance within them or romantic relationship within them, it feels like they perpetuate unhealthy relationship dynamics, like seeing the other person as your saviour, like seeing the other person as your one and only, and like the person who is supposed to hold you up no matter what, and like as if you can't do that for yourself. I don't know how to describe, it's just an ick for me. There's an ick about how the relationships are portrayed. There's an ick about almost patriarchal standards of a relationship, like how Clary sees Jace. It's almost like perpetuating harmful stories and dynamics when it comes to gender roles in relationships or gender roles in the dating process, or I don't even know, it's so hard to describe. Let me know if you've read these books and you know what I mean, because it's so hard to put my finger on it because it's very subtle and it is like ignorable, because I do still enjoy these books. There are just some times where I cringe. I think I gave this 3 stars. Yeah, 3-star read. Enjoyable but slightly problematic. Oh, and I guess I should give you a little bit of a blurb. So it says, haunted by her past, Clary is dragged deeper into New York City's terrifying underworld of demons and shadow hunters, but can she control her feelings for a boy who can never be hers? Yeah. Okay, next book is... oh, I read The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman. I'm going to show you a picture here because I don't have the copy with me because I took it out of the library. This was beautiful. It was illustrated by Chris Riddell, who's a fantastic illustrator and I know has illustrated a lot of things for Neil Gaiman. I have a copy of Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman that's also illustrated by Chris Riddell, and I just love his illustrations. They're so expressive and dynamic. I want to use the word dynamic because most of it was black and white with The Sleeper and the Spindle, but there was like hints of gold throughout. I'll try and find some other pictures online of the illustrations so that I can show you, but it was really stunning. I read this in one sitting, sat in a coffee shop, took it out of the library and then took it straight back again, and it was fun. It was a fun read. It was an enjoyable little coffee hour. It's a spin on Rapunzel, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, and I enjoyed it because it has a sapphic twist that I really wasn't expecting. Oh, I gave it 3.75 stars. Goodreads says, a thrillingly reimagined fairy tale from truly magical combination of author Neil Gaiman and illustrator Chris Riddell, weaving together a sort of Snow White and an almost Sleeping Beauty with a thread of dark magic which will hold readers spellbound from start to finish. So I got it completely wrong with Rapunzel. On the eve of her wedding, a young queen sets out to rescue a princess from enchantment. She casts aside her fine wedding clothes, takes her chainmail and her sword, and follows her brave dwarf retainers into the tunnels under the mountain towards the sleeping kingdom. This queen will decide her own future, and the princess who needs rescuing is not quite what she seems. Twisting together the familiar and the new, this perfectly delicious, captivating and darkly funny tale shows its creators at the peak of their talents. It was a really beautiful read, and it was surprisingly humorous. Well, maybe not surprisingly because it's Neil Gaiman, but yeah, I really enjoyed it.
2 hours later.
Hey friends, so I just got back from my little outing, and I believe where I left off was I had just been talking about The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman. So the next book we have on the list that I read this month is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. Excuse me. I'm pretty sure I actually did my last reading session of this book in my Recovering from Autistic Meltdown video, which I'll link in a card up above if you want to see my immediate reaction to the end of this book. This was so gripping. I did not want to stop reading this. So Holly Jackson is the same author who wrote the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, which I absolutely loved and devoured. So when I saw this in a charity shop, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to pick this up immediately. I'm pretty sure I got it for £1 or something. And it's the hardback. It says $14.99 on the back, so I was chuffed with that find. But it's a very different premise than the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. There's still a crime that happens, but it's not like mystery, solving a murder type of thing. It's more like slightly thriller, I would say. A lot more suspenseful, a lot more immediate, because it takes place over a period of 24 hours, I believe it is. So the inside cover says, Red Kenny is on a road trip for spring break with 5 friends. Red's best friend, her older brother, his perfect girlfriend, a secret crush and a classmate. When their RV breaks down in the middle of nowhere, they soon realise that this is no accident. They have been trapped by someone out there in the dark, someone who clearly wants one of them dead. It's such a page turner. It's described as a heart-pounding, addictive YA thriller, and I gave this 4.25 stars. It was slightly intense, but I enjoyed it a lot. Oh, it's really starting to rain out there now. That was good timing. Ooh, so next we have The Night Bookmobile by Audrey Niffenegger. I never know if that's how you pronounce her surname. Niffenegger? Niffenegger? I don't know. But this was interesting and took a turn that I was not expecting. This is another one that I took out of the library. It's a graphic novel, and I thought it would be kind of like a sweet, cozy book about this like library on wheels type thing. Goodreads says, first serialised in The Guardian, The Night Bookmobile tells the story of a young woman who one night encounters a mysterious, disappearing mobile library that happens to stock every book she has ever read. Seeing her history and her most intimate self in this library, she embarks on a search for the bookmobile. Over time, her search turns into an obsession as she longs to be reunited with her own collection and her memories. I won't spoil the ending, but it definitely has kind of a darker twist at the end than I was hoping for. But I think it just wasn't the book that I thought it was, so maybe that's my fault, I don't know. I still enjoyed it though. In my Goodreads review I wrote that it was surprising and enjoyable, so... Oh, I gave it 4 stars. It was very well done. I wasn't a huge fan of the illustration style, but it was very well written and a very interesting concept. It was one of those ones where, you know those times where you're just shocked that another person actually created that out of their own mind? It was one of those. Okay, next we have another one that kind of disappointed me. And that was book 1 of the Dalemark Quartet by Diana Wynne Jones. I think it's called Cart and Quidder, yeah. I was super intrigued to read this because obviously Diana Wynne Jones is a very prolific children's author, and she wrote Howl's Moving Castle, which obviously is massive. I've never read Howl's Moving Castle, I've never read any other Diana Wynne Jones books, but I've seen the movie version of Howl's Moving Castle and it's obviously extraordinary. So I was very excited to read some Diana Wynne Jones, but this kind of let me down a little bit. I got bored quite a bit throughout this. The only reason I didn't DNF is because it's quite a short book and I read it within a few days, so I just kind of carried on till the end. But yeah, it says Clennon and his family earn their living as wandering musicians, travelling to the towns of Dalemark in their colourful cart. With warring earldoms and spies everywhere, few move between the north and the south, and Clennon often carries news and sometimes a passenger. Who is the mysterious Ciaran who has joined them on this journey? Is he connected to the sudden violence that overtakes them on their travels? When Morrill, Brid and Dagner are left to carry out Clennon's instructions, their fate and Ciaran's are bound together in terror and flight, and music, for the songs of Dalemark mean more than they can say. I loved the concept, and I loved the idea of there being magic associated with the music that they play. That was really wonderful to read, but it just fell flat for me in terms of plot, and I honestly didn't care that much about the characters. I didn't end up wanting to read on because I didn't feel like I cared very much about what happened. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is in a book where you feel really strongly connected to a character and you want to know what happens to them, or you care strongly about what happens to them. I didn't feel that in this. I definitely enjoyed parts of it though, but I only gave it 2 stars. I definitely don't think I'd be interested in reading more of the books in this series. The sun's all of a sudden come out, so we've got a little bit of a change of lighting. Spice it up a bit. Oh my gosh, this is so fucking good. Okie dokie. Next is... Ooh, okay. So, over on the glorious YouTube channel Literary Gladiators, they are hosting an alphabet roundtable reads, which I participated in this month. So basically I was given a letter of the alphabet and I had to read something beginning with that letter and create a video for their channel talking about it. So my letter was S. So I read A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. This was a really interesting experience because I've been exposed to this play a few different times in my life. Firstly, when I was studying A-level English at 6th form, we read this during that course, and I just don't think I had the brain space at that age to fully understand the breadth of what was going on here. Then when the National Theatre Live released their filmed version of it with Gillian Anderson as Blanche, I watched that, which was spectacular, and I've been really wanting to read it again since. So I took this opportunity to reread. I also had it on my TBR because I discovered that on Audible, in the Audible Premium Library, there is a full cast reading of this. I think I've spoken about this actually in the massive book haul video that I did when I brought all my books, or when I brought a load of my books out of storage. I think I spoke about this, but basically one of the cast members, the person who plays Blanche in this full cast reading on Audible, is Audra McDonald, who is one of the most fantastic theatre actresses of a generation. I believe she's the person who has won the most Tonys ever for an individual human. I think she's won like 6 or 7 Tonys or something ridiculous. The actor who has won the most Tony Awards for a performer. She's incredible. So obviously I was drawn to listen along as I read my physical copy, which was a perfect experience. I definitely recommend, if you don't already and you want to get into reading some type of a classic, listening to the audiobook at the same time really helps. The blinds are doing a really weird thing now. I think I might close them. Ooh, better I think. So my actual thoughts of the story. Let me share what it's about first. So it says, fading Southern belle Blanche Dubois depends on the kindness of strangers and is adrift in the modern world. When she arrives to stay with her sister Stella in a crowded, boisterous corner of New Orleans, her delusions of grandeur bring her into conflict with Stella's crude, brutish husband Stanley. Eventually, their violent collision course causes Blanche's fragile sense of identity to crumble, threatening to destroy her sanity and her one chance of happiness. It's really intense. It's exceptional and exceptionally written, and the characters are exceptionally crafted. They're so alive, but I did find it difficult to get through only because of the intensity. There is a bit of violence, there is mental illness, But at the same time, I'm so fascinated with the character of Blanche, like the coping mechanisms that she's built for herself, for her to get through her day-to-day life, are fascinating. She's someone who lies through her teeth about everything, about her life, about herself, about her experience, about how she's feeling. She just is a natural person who makes things up to make herself feel better. And that in a character, in a play, fascinates me. And I find it incredible to think as well about how this character can be portrayed in so many different ways. Like the way that I was listening to Audra McDonald play Blanche versus when I think back to when I saw Gillian Anderson play Blanche. They're two completely different portrayals, and I think that really is a credit to Tennessee Williams and the way that he's crafted that character. There's so many facets to her, and I think she is really like the star of the show type of thing in terms of what's carrying the plot of this play. There's a lot I could say about this, but I'll let you go and watch the Literary Gladiators video that is going to be released around the 9th, 10th of March. When it comes out, I'll link it below in the description. Oh, did I rate this? I feel like I felt weird rating this because it's a classic, and I feel like sometimes... Oh, I gave it 5 stars. Okay, next we have one that I absolutely loved and adored, and that was Anne Patchett's Tom Lake. This was so sweet and wholesome. Beautiful story, beautiful characters, beautifully written. Oh my gosh, I've never read any Anne Patchett before, and now I really want to read more from her. It was stunning to read. Just her word choice was so enjoyable. So, Goodreads says, in the spring of 2020, Lara's 3 daughters return to the family's orchard in northern Michigan. While picking cherries, they beg their mother to tell them the story of Peter Duke, a famous actor with whom she shared both a stage and a romance years before at a theatre company called Tom Lake. As Lara recalls her past, her daughters examine their own lives and relationship with their mother and are forced to reconsider the world and everything they thought they knew. It's just a really beautiful story, and it's beautiful to... It feels like an honour to bear witness to the character of Lara telling this story to her children. It feels intimate and it feels special. And the audiobook is read by none other than Meryl Streep. So what is there not to love, really? This was the first book in so long that I spent more than a week reading. I just wanted to draw it out and for it not to end and just to treasure every second. So I really took my time with this one. I gave it 5 stars. Oh, and I don't have a physical copy because I took it out of the library. I really want to get a physical copy though eventually, because I'm sure at some point I'm going to want to reread this. Okay friends, so 2 more to go. The next one we have is Serpent and Dove. This, I believe, was quite big on TikTok, or is quite big on TikTok. I don't know. I don't use TikTok, so I just hear about popular TikTok books from YouTubers. But this is a duology, I think. I don't think there's a 3rd one. I know Blood and Honey is the 2nd one, but this was entertaining. It was long. It's a chunky book, and that kind of put me off reading it for a while. Also, another thing that put me off reading it for a while was that it doesn't have a proper blurb on the actual book. So for a while I didn't know what this was properly about, and I think if I'd have known sooner I might have read it sooner, because the blurb actually sounds really good. It says 2 years ago, Louise LeBlanc fled her coven and took shelter in the city of Césarine, forsaking all magic and living off whatever she could steal. There, witches like Lou are hunted, they are feared, and they are burned. Sworn to the church as a chasseur, Reed Diggory has lived his life by one principle: thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. His path was never meant to cross with Lou's, but a wicked stunt forces them into an impossible union, holy matrimony. So basically, it's an enemies to lovers fantasy romance. It was very entertaining, and I did continually want to read on, but it was also so cringe and slightly problematic. I didn't really enjoy the concept of this world being so heavily patriarchal, even more so than our current society in reality is, because I feel like we don't really need more of that. And I really didn't enjoy reading that aspect of it. It's super patriarchal. Women are very blatantly seen as the lesser sex, and reading that part of it was just not fun for me. I feel like, if anything, we need more stories that are doing the opposite. Anyway, it was still fun, nevertheless. Honestly, I saw a review on Goodreads saying that this felt like fan fiction. That's how cringy it is. And I agree, like, that it does have that feel to it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it was originally. I don't think it was, but it really has that cringe-like quality to it. But it was still fun and entertaining. I'm kind of on the fence about whether I would care about reading the next one. To be honest, I don't think it would end up happening, just because there's so many other things that I would rather read, I think. But it was a fun time, to be fair. I gave it 3 stars, and I think it kind of reminds me a little bit about what I was trying to describe about City of Ashes at the beginning of this video, where there's almost kind of unhealthy relationship dynamics perpetuated in entertainment media like books and stuff. Huge, like, cringeworthy levels of codependency and like putting the other person before yourself to your own detriment type of thing. We need to get healthier than that in these stories. Come on, people. These are teen fiction books. We don't need to be perpetuating those relationship dynamics. Okay, and we're ending on a high. This glorious book is Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. This is the queer representation, witchy book that I've been searching for. I also can't believe this is set in Hebden Bridge, because Hebden Bridge is a place that I love. Hebden Bridge is a little town in the north of England that has a lot of ties to like the ancient pagan witchy stories of England, and obviously that's why it's been used as the base location of this novel. Oh, this was just so enjoyable. The characters are so juicy, the plot is so juicy, the concept is fantastic. There's a beautiful trans coming of age story that happens throughout this book as well. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me read. So it says, hidden among us is a secret coven of witches. Known as Her Majesty's Royal Coven, they protect crown and country from magical forces and otherworldly evil, but their greatest enemy will come from within. There are whisperings of a prophecy that will bring the coven to its knees, and 4 best friends are about to be caught at the centre. Life as a modern witch was never simple, but now it's about to get apocalyptic. If you're on the fence about reading this book, I would totally encourage you to pick it up. It was wonderful. And the audiobook was read by Nicola Coughlan, who was fantastic. So many different accents, so many different voices for different characters. This has multiple POVs, each chapter changes to a different person's perspective, and it's done fantastically. It tells the story so well, you feel like you get such a rounded view of the plot through these, I think it's 5 different main perspectives. I cannot wait to read the other books in this trilogy. I believe it's a trilogy, but I don't think the 3rd one is out yet. I will be reading the 2nd one soon, I already know. Absolutely fantastic. I haven't quite decided yet because I only finished it last night, but I think this might be a 6-star read for me. It's one of those books that is up there for me with Francesca May's Wild and Wicked Things. That's like a book that just feels like so many of the things that I love in a book. Loved it. Really loved it. Juno Dawson has written so many other books as well that I didn't realise. Like queer non-fiction books. Oh my gosh, and Doctor Who books. Juno Dawson wrote the This Book is Gay book. This one. I see this book everywhere. But yeah, so many informative books about trans stuff, queer stuff. Amazing. I'd definitely be interested in reading more of her work in the future. So that is it for this month's reading wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe below, it really helps me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
I got all this potential that's deep inside of me, but they hate when you're successful cause they try to be. They sit there being judgmental because you're trying things, and they just want you to settle and do the right thing.